Amazon spent $200 billion on artificial intelligence this year. In the same year, it fired 57,000 people. This isn't just Amazon. Meta, Microsoft, and Walmart are doing the exact same thing, at the exact same time. Across the tech industry, more than 140,000 jobs have disappeared this year alone. So if a $2 trillion company is willing to cut this many people while pouring billions into AI, the real question isn't whether artificial intelligence is coming for your job. It's how fast and whether anyone is actually ready for it. To understand why Amazon is doing both things at once, you have to understand what kind of company it's actually trying to become. For 20 years, Amazon's story was simple: sell more, ship faster, hire more people to make that happen. Growth solved almost every problem. That story is changing fast. Inside Amazon's warehouses, robots already pack, sort, and move packages faster than any human team ever could, working around the clock without breaks. The delivery trucks, the sorting centers, the recommendation engine that decides what you see when you open the app, all of it increasingly runs on artificial intelligence, quietly, in the background. Even the tiny decisions, like which product shows up first when you search, are now largely made by algorithms trained to predict exactly what gets you to click buy. What's new is that this shift has finally reached Amazon's office workers too: the coordinators, the customer service reps, the support staff who used to be considered safe from automation. Behind the scenes, Amazon has built something most customers never see: its own custom AI chips, called Trainium, designed to train and run AI models more cheaply than renting chips from NVIDIA. That chip business alone is already generating an estimated $20 billion a year internally, powering everything from the Alexa Plus assistant to Amazon's own shopping AI, Rufus. On the warehouse floor, Amazon has now deployed more than 1 million robots, coordinated by an AI system called DeepFleet that plans robot movement across entire fulfillment centers. In his letter to shareholders, CEO Andy Jassy called this moment a once-in-a-generation opportunity, comparing it to the earliest days of Amazon Web Services, the cloud business that eventually became Amazon's biggest profit engine. That bet is already paying off. Amazon's cloud division just crossed $150 billion in annual revenue, growing nearly 30% in a single year. And here's where the story connects to names you've likely heard elsewhere. Both OpenAI and Anthropic now rent massive amounts of computing power directly from Amazon's Trainium chips to train and run their own AI models. In other words, some of the very same AI labs replacing jobs at other companies are quietly paying Amazon for the hardware that makes their models possible in the first place, a business relationship most customers never see. Some of the layoffs are simply catching up with the past, too. During the pandemic, Amazon hired at a blistering pace to keep up with a surge in online shopping. When that demand cooled off, the company found itself carrying far more staff than it actually needed, a problem many tech giants shared, not just Amazon. But the layoffs happening now go well beyond simply correcting old overhiring. They came in waves, each one a little larger and more deliberate than the last. In late January 2026 alone, Amazon eliminated 16,000 corporate positions in a single announcement, one of its largest single cuts ever. Customer service roles went next, cut in April. Support staff for outside sellers followed in May. Each round hit a different part of the company, methodically. Even Amazon's physical retail experiments felt it. The company began closing Amazon Go and Amazon Fresh stores, trimming jobs that once seemed like the future of grocery shopping. Add it all up, and Amazon has now cut more than 57,000 corporate jobs since 2022, about 16% of its entire corporate workforce. To be fair, that's still a small slice of the company as a whole. Amazon employs over 1.5 million people worldwide, most of them in warehouses and logistics, not offices. It's worth being precise here, because the two workforces face very different pressures. Warehouse and delivery jobs are being reshaped by robots working alongside people. Corporate jobs are the ones actually disappearing outright. Leadership has also pushed a separate, related goal: fewer layers of management, less internal bureaucracy, and a flatter, more startup-like structure, a change Amazon says makes decisions faster, even without any AI involved at all. Still, at the corporate level, Amazon's CEO hasn't hidden the reason for the cuts. Andy Jassy told employees the company will need fewer people doing today's jobs, and more people doing entirely different ones, as AI tools take on more of the work. He's been blunt about where this leads. As AI adoption deepens, Amazon expects its total corporate workforce to shrink further, even as the company keeps growing overall. Amazon has tried to soften the landing where it can lay off staff or offered the chance to apply for other roles internally, plus severance pay and continued health coverage during the transition. Amazon isn't only cutting, either. It's also committing $1 billion to a program called Career Choice, meant to retrain workers for the jobs the same technology is creating. For the people actually affected right now, though, that shift feels less like a strategy memo and more like a wall. One laid-off worker applied to 250 jobs and heard back from just 4 companies. Another employee has described opening what he expected to be a routine notification, only to find out he'd been let go, the news arriving with no more warning than an email. Not every story ends there, though. One former Amazon cloud engineer, laid off in January, said the shock faded once he landed at a new AI-focused company and admitted the workload at Amazon had already been brutal before he left. Meanwhile, for shareholders, the math looks very different. Fewer corporate salaries plus record AI investment has, so far, kept investors overwhelmingly bullish. A large majority of Wall Street analysts still rate Amazon's stock a buy. That's the uncomfortable core of this story. The same decision that ends one person's career can be the exact decision that grows someone else's retirement account, at the exact same time. Amazon isn't an outlier here. It's the leading edge of something happening across the entire technology industry, all at once. In May 2026 alone, employers cut more than 97,000 jobs nationwide, and nearly 40% of those cuts were directly blamed on artificial intelligence. Goldman Sachs, the investment bank, estimates artificial intelligence is now eliminating around 16,000 American jobs every single month, month after month. And according to that same research, the group absorbing the heaviest impact is the youngest workers, the ones just entering the job market for the very first time. Entry-level roles, the traditional first rung on the career ladder, are often exactly the tasks AI tools can now handle: drafting emails, summarizing documents, answering routine questions. One separate analysis puts AI's fingerprints on 22% of every layoff announced anywhere in 2026 so far, nearly 1 in every 4 job cuts. Microsoft's own head of artificial intelligence has warned that most office and white-collar tasks could be automated within 18 months, a timeline most workers simply aren't prepared for. At Meta, executives have told employees internally that AI-driven development is already reshaping how entire engineering teams are structured, with fewer people needed to ship the same amount of work. Walmart and Dell have echoed the same language: efficiency, restructuring, streamlining, words that increasingly mean the same underlying thing: fewer people, more automation. And yet, zoom out to the whole economy, and the picture gets more confusing. The national unemployment rate sat at just 4.2% in June, historically low, not a crisis. Job openings actually rose that same month, and average pay kept climbing too. The layoffs are real, but so far they haven't dragged the wider economy down with them. That contradiction has split economists into 2 camps. One side says the resilient overall numbers prove AI's impact is being overstated by a handful of loud headlines, that most of the economy still runs on restaurants, healthcare, and construction, sectors barely touched by any of this. Even Amazon's own founder has staked out a surprisingly optimistic position. Months after the company's biggest single round of cuts, Jeff Bezos predicted AI would eventually create a labor shortage, not a surplus, arguing that people are simply being told to expect the worst. The other side argues the damage is simply concentrated, invisible in national averages, but very real if you happen to work in the wrong department at the wrong company this year. Averages, they point out, can hide a lot of individual pain. That concentration shows up clearly in one group, especially workers under 30, who are disproportionately represented in the exact entry-level, task-based roles AI tools now handle competently. So which version of the future wins: mass job losses, or a labor market that quietly adjusts and moves on? In Europe, Amazon is actually promising to grow its workforce by 25,000 people, even as it builds robotic warehouses there too. Same company, same technology, opposite decisions, proof that these choices are guided purely by cost and local strategy, not some fixed, universal rule about AI replacing people everywhere at once. Back in the US, Amazon's other move offers a clue too. Even while cutting roles at home, the company keeps hiring in lower-cost countries like India, often for the very same kinds of support and operations work being automated domestically. Some remaining employees have described internal dashboards that quietly track how much they're using Amazon's own AI tools, a sign that adoption itself is now part of how performance gets measured. Amazon alone now accounts for roughly 13% of every tech layoff announced this year, more than any other single company in the industry. Some economists argue this is simply what every major technology shift looks like at first: painful, uneven, and concentrated in a handful of companies before it spreads or eventually settles. Gartner, a leading research firm, even predicts that AI will start creating more jobs than it destroys, but not until 2028, at the earliest. That's a big gap to sit inside if you're one of the 57,000 people whose job already disappeared this year, waiting for a shift that hasn't arrived yet. Even outside AI directly, Amazon is placing similar-sized bets elsewhere. Its satellite internet project, Kuiper, is entering commercial testing this year, another multi-billion-dollar wager on infrastructure most people won't notice until it's already built. For some, that gap becomes an opening. New roles are emerging around building, managing, and double-checking the very AI systems replacing older jobs, a shift, not simply a disappearance. The skills in demand are shifting too. Fewer people needed to execute routine tasks by hand, more people needed to supervise, audit, and improve the systems now doing that work automatically. Amazon didn't build its trillion-dollar business by being sentimental about efficiency. It never has been, not for 20 years. What's different now is the scale: $200 billion flowing straight into the technology that's replacing the very jobs that used to define the company. If there's a practical takeaway in all of this, it's not panic, it's attention. The roles disappearing fastest tend to be repetitive, predictable, easy to describe in a checklist. The ones holding up involve judgment calls, relationships, and problems nobody has fully mapped out yet. Whether Amazon's bet pays off for its shareholders is almost beside the point. The bigger question is what happens to everyone else's job when every major company runs the same experiment at the same time. For now, the answer isn't written yet. It's being decided one earnings call and one layoff announcement at a time, and the next chapter is still being written.